All right, so now our game has backgrounds that are acceptable. The next thing to do is to make a our player graphics, right? So basically, try to make these look a little bit nicer. Our other elements. Okay, so first thing you want to do is make your graphics, and so I already made mine. Once you've made them, you want to download them or whatever. Save them as a PNG. PNGs have transparency, and then we're going to drop it in there. And I went to my sprites and I dropped it in there, just so you can see right here. Let me pull this up bigger. Um, Basically, I have my walk, so it's just the steps here. You can see him; he's walking. And then after that, I have his idle, which is just him moving down, because then I'm just going to take this and then move it back up. So him just kind of going down and up is what I'm picturing here. And then I have one for jump, and I made one for death. I don't know if I'm going to use that yet. And then I did an enemy. Okay, so basically, you really just need move, right? The locomotion, whatever way they're gonna travel, when they're not moving and when they're jumping, because that's all we really had so far. But that's basically what I made here, and so you should make something somewhat similar. All right, so when it looks at this, it sees it as one big old picture because that's what it is. So what we need to do first is actually cut this up into the individual pictures. So if you go on the top here, it should say Sprite 2D UI. In case it doesn't, just make sure that's on there. So it says Sprite Mode Single. We actually want multiples. That way it can be cut into multiple pictures. Then you typically want to do the resolution of each one of your frames, right? So like this picture here, this one square is 64 by 64. That's the way I set it up. So I want to put that in here as 64. Whoops, not that. 64. That's basically going to be equivalent to one cube here. Now, if you want to make it bigger, you can change that number and make it higher, or actually, sorry, you'd make the number smaller. So if I did 32, he would be the size of 4 squares because he would be too tall and too wide. And if I want to make him half the size, then I would just do, 128. So then he would be smaller, right? Because it'd be 128 would fit in there, and he's only 64, so he would only go half of it. So anyways, 64 is equivalent to 1 square. That's fine. Now, this is pixel. So basically, I don't want there to be any smoothing. I don't want to try and make it look good. So I'm going to make sure that it's point no filter. Otherwise, you can leave it on bilinear if you're doing like something a little nicer looking. And then we'll hit apply. And it doesn't do anything initially. It's just going to have the ability. I mean, well, it does some of the things we did. But now what I want to do is actually cut this picture up. So I'm going to go to Sprite Editor. Okay. And then you're going to go to Slice. And we can do it a couple different ways. I could do it by cell size. So if I did 64 by 64, obviously they're all 64. That would work. Or I could do by cell count and be like 4 by 4. All right. So it's however you want to do it. Let's just do cell size. So 64 by 64 is slice. And you're going to see what's going to do is it's going to slice. If I click on it, you can see slices it into 64 pixels at a time. Hopefully, I feel like I'm moving it. I did move it a little. Stop moving. Okay. All right. So that's good. Then we'll hit apply. And good. And then we'll close out of it. Alrighty. So now if I click on this little arrow, you're going to see it cut it up all into these individual pictures that I can now use. All right. Let's go ahead and on the player here. Okay. There's the player right there, the basic graphics. I'm going to drop, and I'm going to start off with my idle, which is this one right here. So I'm just going to click and drag it up into here. Voila. So now my idle is officially in there. Okay. This one picture is. That's basically what we have right now. It's just that one picture. Let's go ahead and just do that for the enemies as well. So to do the enemy, I'm just going to click on the... Actually, you know what? Let's not do the enemy yet. All right, so we have that. That looks fine. So we've got those brought in. Now we need to do is actually make our animation clips, okay? So to do that, with player still selected, click on animation. All right, the animation tab here. If it doesn't show up, just go to Window, Animation, Animation, and you can snap it down here. I would just snap it down the bottom like this because it's generally a longer panel thing. So anyways, with the player selected, you're going to go ahead and click on Create, and that will create a new animator component and an animation clip. So click on Create. It's going to automatically direct you to sprites. That's not where we want to be. Go to Assets, and we're going to add a new folder in here. So go New Folder. And we're just going to go animations, okay? And we're going to put in the animations. And I'm going to name this first one, I'm going to name it player underscore idle, right? Because this is going to be his idle animation. Then I'll hit save. Voila. So now we have that going on there. So right now, if you look at the samples, that's the frame rate. So if it's 60, that means it's 60 frames per second. That's actually not what I want to sample at because I'm doing kind of a pixelated one. You want to generally put this number as to what you were, like if you were in Piskel, remember you could change that frame rate. If that's what you're previewing at and that's what looked good to you, you put the same number in here. I think I'm going to put 8. So mine is only going to run 8 frames per second, which isn't really very fast, but which is pretty slow, but that's fine. That's the look I'm going for. But generally speaking, you want to go 12 is what people, it's kind of considered the norm. Obviously, 60 frames per second is kind of what people shoot for in video games, but I'm saying for like 2D animation. Anyway, so then we can start putting keys in here. And the way that it works is that you add the properties that you can apply keys to. So in this case, I'm going to click on Add Property, and these are all of the components that are attached to it. You can see the transform component, right? The sprite one, the rigid body, boss glider, our player controller script, the ground check, well, I guess the animator doesn't show up because it's part of it. But basically, it ground check because that's an object underneath it. So basically, anything that's underneath it in a hierarchy will show up down here. So you can animate pretty much any feature of your thing. In my case, what I want to do is actually affect the sprite renderer. So open up sprite renderer, and then you're going to click on sprite and hit the little plus, and that will add it. So basically, what I'm going to do is I want to swap out the sprite on different frames. Okay, so if I expand this, we'll see the little picture of it. If you hit this little arrow, it's up to you if you want to do that. Good. Okay, so we'll call that the first frame. That works for me. And it automatically creates the last frame too. Should have mentioned that as well. All right, so now what I want to do is I'm going to hit record mode. So now it's going to record what I'm doing. I'm going to double click in this gray area. That will create a key. Okay, that's how you create keys. Click in there. Then, if you look, this is the time slider. So if you click up in this red bar now, well, it's red now, but where the seconds or whatever the time stamps are, I'm going to go here. So I'm over top of this one, and then up here, I can click on this to change what I want it to be. So right now it's on this one. It should be the next one over. So click on that. I'm going to move this over. Double click in here. Okay. And then while I'm already on it, make sure you're on the one that you want to change. And then we'll go to the next one. Great. I'm going to double click in here. And click. And go to the next one. Going over to here. I'm going to double click. I'm going to leave it as this one so that he's there for 2 frames. Then we're going to go back up. So now I'm just going to go ahead and double click. That way it's almost like a little more of an ease. Then we'll go on this one. Okay. Click on here. And now I'm going to go back because he's just going down and then back up. So I'm going to double click on this. There we go. Go here. Double click. Click there. Double click. Double click here. Make sure my time slider's over top of it. Click here. And which one did I leave off on? That one. So it would be, I guess, this one. Let me just double check. So you should be able to see it over here. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so I can see it. So if I drag the slider, so you can see, good. Now you can see I have 2 of them here, right? So like there's 2 here, but this is already going to be this one. And the first one and the last one are the same. So it's like having 3 since I have this one. So I'm going to actually click on this one and just hit delete. Now my animation only goes to 7 frames. And if I hit play, I can see what it looks like, right? And you might decide like, oh, that's a little too fast or that's a little too slow. And if I want to make it slower, all I got to do is just go here and type in like, let's say 6. Right? And that looks fine. Let's say 6 is good. So we'll go with 6. All right? Looks good. Go out of record mode. And now that is there. And if you play your game, you're actually going to see that that is what's going to play constantly. We have to write a little bit of code in order for it to switch to other. Well, for one, we only have one animation in there. But we'd have to write a little bit of code in order for it to work. But at least we have the idle in there, and you can see it looks pretty cool, right? So let's go ahead. We need to make some more animation clips. So we have our idle. Because what we're going to do is you're going to make those different states. And depending on the state, it's going to play the different animation clips in the different states. So we have now an idle. We need to make a walk. So I'm going to click this little down arrow, and I'm going to create a new clip. And just make sure again that we're in the animations. I don't know why it doesn't stay there. And we'll call this player underscore walk. Now you might have run, so if you want, you can write run. Sometimes I'll add walk and run, but I'm just gonna have walk right now. We're gonna add property. It's gonna be exactly the same thing because all we're doing is just swapping out sprites. So I'll click on sprite, add the sprite one. Let's make the frame rate 6 to start with, since the other one is also 6. I'm gonna click and drag this little thing here so I can see the end. And I'm just going to delete that one just so that there's, because what it does, it automatically makes it like 1 second, although I think this is like 10 seconds now, but automatically makes it that far. So I'm not going to need that many. So I'm going to lower my number here. And I'm just going to go straight through. So I'm going to go to record mode so we can record what we're doing. I'm over top of the first frame and we're going to hit here. And I want it to be my first frame of my walk, which is just this one here. So just double click on that. Double click here, make sure my time slider's over it. Go here, oops, okay. Go to the second one, double click, go here. Go to the third one, okay. Double click, move here. All right, go to the next one. Double click, go here. Go to the next one, double click, go here. Go to the next one. Come on. Double click. Go here. Go to the next one. Double click. Go here. Go to the next one. And I think that's it. So let's just hit play here and see. And it looks pretty good. Right? Looks a little bit slow to me. Generally, you should try and keep all your frame rates the same. But we'll call that good. I was using 8 before, but we'll just say that that's fine. And that's it. Okay, so we're going to go back out of record mode, and now we officially have that. Okay, so we have our walk animation. So now we need to do our jump. It's going to be jump/fall, but we're just going to do jump, and that will also be our fall. So to do that, same thing we did before. Click on here, and you can see we have our 2 now. We're going to create a new clip. Oh, this time I finally knew it's animation. All right, so player underscore, and this will be jump. All right. Same thing as before, add property, sprite renderer, and with a little sprite, okay? And get rid of this one. I'm gonna click on this, hit delete, go to this one, go in record mode, go here, and find jump, which is just this one here. Boom, great. Go out of record mode, that's it. There's only 1 frame because it's all it is. We didn't do any animations of him jumping, which quite honestly will make it quite a bit easier than trying to do a bunch of parts of it. Okay, so that's going to be good. So now we have our player has his animations. Okay, so what we need to do now is if I hit play, it's still just going to play the one animation, and that's because I'll show you in a second here. But that's because we have these different states. But it goes entry, it goes to idle, and it's not going to the other ones. In the next video, what I'm going to do is show you a little bit more of the animation. We're not going to go into this quite yet. I'm just going to animate basically the car and the pickups and stuff like that. Okay, and we'll do that on the next one.